everybody.
Hey, what's
Happy
going
Friday.
on?
Welcome,
Happy
number
Friday.
50 starting over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Earl Garrison.
Oh boy, I was sitting here waiting for you to looking at my notes, getting some things together. Forgot I didn't have my microphone set up and stuff. So, mad rush there. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This post-Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
We're in the thick of it here. We basically had a blizzard yesterday, blizzard-like conditions.
That is crazy. I gotta tell you, I'm not missing that at all.
Oh, I hear you, man. I'm not ready to be cold yet. We had such a beautiful fall. We've had a beautiful year, and all of a sudden it's 30, and 30 feels like 10 because I'm
I
just
can't even
not
imagine.
ready for it. And I
You know,
wear so much stuff when I go out. Charlie loves it.
yeah,
All the dogs love it.
why? I wonder why that is. I guess, walking around with that fur coat on 24/7, it's gotta get tiring after a while.
I guess. Boy, they play hard in this. They just love the snow. All the
They've
dogs do.
they've got to be totally invigorated out there. Imagine how that feels with their little paws and everything in that
Oh,
snow. I mean,
you
that's got to
know,
go right to their brain.
I had a realization only some years ago, like with Lainey, my little beagle. So that's about 6 years ago, maybe seven, a little while now, 7 years ago. And we're walking on a winter day. Stuff was barely starting to melt. And I realized she's walking through ice water.
Yeah.
And I never
Hey,
thought
it's got to
about
be like
that
all
before.
frozen and everything. Out
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
it's like you see people walking their dogs and it's like, 115 out. I mean,
Think
and
about
it's,
asphalt and
oh
concrete
man.
yeah,
We-
so I
and
started thinking about those things. I started reading about it too. It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
serious, very
It
serious.
is. And yeah, have you ever, I mean, imagine some people put little, shoes or
Mhm.
boots on their dogs, but man, you ever try to
Yeah.
put something on a dog's paw?
Uh-huh. And
That
then watch them.
does not work out
They're
very well.
trying to walk and get that crap off their feet at the same time. It's really funny. Hey,
Oh
with that,
man.
I have a ton. We haven't
I do
talked about
too.
the podcast. Well, good.
Yeah, I have some stuff over here too. One of the things that I have
Mhm.
going on is these foods that have been banned in other countries. I
Let's
got
talk about it.
15 of them that are banned in other countries that are not banned here. We do it all the time. One of them is U.S. pork. And our U.S. pork, for the most part, is banned in China, Russia, and the European
Why?
Union because it's due to this additive that they put inside of pork here in the United States called rectopamine. And rectopamine
Jesus.
is used to, it's a feed
Parasites, probably.
additive
Mm.
for pigs to fatten them up.
Of course.
And then these kinds of things can have detrimental effects on our health, including cancer. But boy, when I started looking into what rectopamine can do to these pigs, it makes them so fat that they can't move anymore. They're stagnated. They just have to lay down all the
Seen
time.
that with chickens with the
Yeah,
growth
and
hormone.
oh God, it's terrible. And we eat these things, and even in China, they won't accept our pork over there, which
Even
is
in China. Yeah.
outrageous. Another one would be coffee mate creamer. I used to drink this all the time.
Oh, I remember, man, in mass amounts.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I put it in my coffee and I drink coffee all day long. And I almost felt like I was addicted to this stuff. But there are two
Probably.
ingredients that are causing it to be banned in Australia, Hungary, and multiple Scandinavian countries. It's hydrogenated soybean and
Sure.
cottonseed oils. Now,
Oh,
you know a
yeah.
little bit about these
Yes, I
seed
do.
oils, right?
Yes, I do.
What do
Yes.
you know about them? I read
Dude,
a
they
little
were,
bit about cottonseed oil, and I was staggered by what I read.
seed oils were originally derived as a byproduct of using grapes, soy, sunflower seeds, whatever. It was a byproduct. And so the industrial factories used them in machinery because it was cheap oil. And so it
Aha.
lubricate machinery. Of course, the food industry is like, really? That stuff's almost free. Look, we could put this in our foods and and reduce the cost of everything. So this is one thing, an illustration I like to give. remember we talk about how, oh, you ever see a picture of people on the beach in the 70s
Yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah. And they're
today?
all skinny, and today it's just like
Well,
everybody's all roly-poly.
and a lot of people think, well, it's because we eat garbage. Yeah, we do. But look at it like this. You ate a bag of chips. You're a kid. You eat a giant bag of chips in the 70s. There's basically three ingredients. There's potatoes, vegetable oil, and salt. Today, it's going to be seed oils, sunflower seed oil or whatever, soybean oil or whatever, and a bunch of other additives, preservatives and addictive chemicals. Seriously addictive chemicals that are put in there for that purpose of being addictive. And so it's absolutely horrible. It's not the same bag of potato chips. So even our junk food. Now, I will say this is a bit of positive news. Just the other day, when I go grocery shopping, I like to get myself something for the ride home. It's usually not great for me, but like I get some dark chocolate covered almonds. I've been doing that quite a bit.
Yeah. I hear
But
dark chocolate is pretty good for you with the
exactly.
antioxidants.
So it's not so great, but not so bad, right?
Right, right, right.
So the other day, I actually did jalapeno kettle chips.
Mm.
But I read the ingredients on these particular ones, and it was vegetable oil, potatoes, and salt, and
Huh.
and jalapeno. So didn't feel that bad about it. It's not great for you, but vegetable oil is not great for you, but it's not seed oil. So go ahead with what you were saying there.
Yeah, so seed oil is the thing, and here it is. It's hydrogenated soybean and then seed oil. Or cottonseed oils in that coffee made. And you mentioned it, they put addictive
Yeah,
things in there that are,
yeah.
some of them are preservatives. But man, it took me, it was like, I had to break the habit of drinking that in my coffee. It was very strange. I still drink my coffee black.
Mm.
And by the way, I got another whole section on coffee, and man, the health positive news about coffee is amazing.
Wait until next week.
Yeah, we'll wait until next
That's
week
how
on that. But
coffee. No, that's how coffee goes. Yeah, it's the
oh,
news always flip
wait until
flops.
next week. Right,
No, but
right.
I will
Well,
say about
I'm gonna go with
coffee
this article.
that is coffee is the nation's number one leading nootropic, and nootropics are neurostimulators. Helps your cognitive function.
Oh man,
Think about that. You're
that
foggy
was
until you
that was
have
a
your
big
coffee.
thing. That's a big thing in there. See, now let's not go down that path because I got a lot of exciting news
Okay,
on there. But I
okay,
want to talk about
okay.
these bad foods right now. Coffee good.
I love
But here,
coffee.
prepackaged ground beef. We've been hearing a lot about what they're doing to our beef here in this
Yeah.
country, which is really crazy and kind of scary. Our prepackaged ground beef, for the most part, is banned in the European Union. And here's why. It's because here in the United States, we use an ammonia gas
Yeah,
as a filter
I've heard of that.
for our beef. And this is supposed to prevent bacteria from
Hmm.
growing on our beef, E. coli. So they put it through this filter that's ammonia. Okay, so you drink ammonia, that's not going to be good for you. But of course, the FDA says it's not dangerous for you. But
Now, Merle, I've heard that
ammonia.
in relation to fast food, in particular McDonald's, their beef. But you're saying they're doing this with all beef.
No, I'm saying they're doing it with most of the beef here,
Oh,
and to the point where the European Union won't even take our beef.
dude, it's becoming apparent the European Union won't take probably most of what we produce because of the 4,000 illegal chemicals that we put in it that they won't allow.
Unbelievable, and that's what it is here. Ritz Crackers is banned in Australia, Switzerland, Hungary, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, and it's once again due to the use of hydrogenated cottonseed oils. Well,
Yeah.
you got to look at these ingredients on these products
Hmm.
when they're,
Hmm.
especially if they're the first few. That means it's the most that's inside of these packages, and some of these things that you can't read, you got to look them up and find out. And here's a good thing to do when you find a word that you can't read or don't understand. Like
Yeah.
here's one. It's brominated vegetable oil. I looked that up. What's wrong with brominated vegetable oil? And what I found out was that they put this chemical in it, bromine, and this can cause cancer. And
Oh, wow.
it's inside of products like Mountain Dew. And so it's in
Oh,
a lot of our kind of sodas. So you got to look at this kind of stuff
that's
that's
a
in.
vegetable oil going in bromine, or just that chemical is going into
It's
Mountain Dew?
it's a chemical going into Mountain Dew, and
Okay.
it's made so that the ingredients don't separate, that they all stay
Oh,
together,
oh,
so you don't have layers of stuff in there,
sure.
and that's what that's for. Probably they figured it out in the factory. Hey, look at that!
In the
We
lab.
accidentally we
Yeah.
accidentally spilled some of that oil in Here's what milk is banned in the European Union because of this man-made growth hormone that's inside of cows. Now this one
Oh,
is called BGH, RBGH, and it turns out about 25% of the milk here in the country has this chemical in it. Again, it's another one of those growth hormones
yep, yep,
that can
yep.
have detrimental effects on your body.
Hmm.
And let's just fly through a couple more of these here because I'm only on number nine. But it is kind of shocking when you find out about this. Skittles is one of them. It
What?
contains Skittles is banned in Norway and Australia. It contains dyes yellow number 5 and red number 40. These are known carcinogens.
Wow. You know what? I think most of us have been taught throughout our lives that because you would think, oh, you think food coloring. Oh, food
Mhm.
coloring's harmless. We color our Easter eggs with it. We dump it into the Chicago River,
Yeah, right.
everything, St. Patty's Day, and all of that. But these red dyes apparently are not what we think of as traditional food coloring.
The red dye is the number one bad guy out there as far as it's red dye. It's called red dye number 40. This one is the most dangerous
Wow.
to our health, and it's inside of all kinds of things. I read about how like a McDonald's sundae with the red dye in there, it's the
Mm,
same stuff. It's basically
wow.
poison. Here's one. Oh, go ahead.
Just briefly, I think all of us seem to have heard about in the last week or two about how Canadian Fruit Loops aren't as vibrant as United States Fruit Loops because of all these dyes that we put in it.
Not as vibrant. I'd hate to get a bland bowl of cereal, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
crazy that the color that can
yeah.
kill you is important in our food. So here's one that I didn't know and kind of shocking to me. This one says our chicken is banned in Europe. Chicken. Specifically chicken in the US that's
Growth
washed with
hormone.
chlorine. Chlorine,
Oh my God.
which is, and it says in parentheses, which is a lot of it. I looked that up, Barry, and it said of the chicken produced here in the United States, 92% of our chicken is washed in chlorine.
Wow.
I didn't find
Wow.
out why, but I imagine it has to do with things like E. coli and bacteria
Sure.
and things
I'm
like that.
sure.
But
Yeah, because they're storing it in obscene ways, I'm
yeah,
sure.
right, right. Here's one. Instant mashed potatoes, banned in the UK and Japan.
In my household.
Any U.S. brand that uses a butylated hydroxin, let's see if I can say this, hydroxinides. I practiced this last
Something that
night.
takes the water out, apparently.
Yeah, but again, this will kill you. Okay, I'm gonna just fly through okay, Pop Tarts banned in Australia and Norway.
Sure.
Again, it's the
Sure.
yellow dyes in there. Rice Krispies has the butylated hydroxytoluene. Again, these are things that'll kill you. You should look these things up. And oh, we should have known this one. Twinkies.
Oh, yeah.
Twinkies only banned in Norway and Australia. I mean, what's wrong here? These
Anything that can't die itself is probably going to kill you.
uh, but then finally, we've got Gatorade is banned in Norway and Australia.
For
Again, it's
what?
these yellow number 5 and number 6 dyes that are
Why would
inside
they
of it.
put that in there?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, this is just the beginning. I mean, my wife researches this stuff all the time to try to
Mm.
protect us against this, but more and more, it's almost like, gosh, anything you pick has
Yeah.
these crazy things inside of it.
You know what? I learned a lot about this when on my second interview with Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I would like to have him on again. He's just one of the favorite guests I've ever had.
Yeah,
He's a psychologist that was employed by the food industry, and he says he's spending the rest of his life trying to undo the evils that he participated
I
in
can't
because
imagine.
lending the talents to doing psychological warfare with your food. And he said that these dyes, like these red dyes, studies find that these vibrant colors, even just tweaking the colors on the package to make them more vibrant, they do all of these psychological studies with test groups. Oh boy, the sales went through the roof
I can
when they just
imagine. Yeah.
increased the vibrancy of these colors. That's why our Fruit Loops are so vibrant, and yet they kill you. So, yeah, there's just a lot of games that are being played. But thank God, RFK Jr. is going to be the director. Now, I suppose let's not get ahead of ourselves here, conversation-wise, but because we'll get back to this. But he's not confirmed, correct? Head of HHS.
No, no one's been confirmed.
Right.
The
Okay.
Senate hearings have not happened yet.
But we're going to get on to this. I'm just laying the stage. We're going to get on to a lot about some of these confirmations. And my God, if you want to talk about turning the swamp around, there looks like there is hope, actually.
I totally agree. I have one last thing to tie off
Sure,
on
go
the
ahead.
on the food here, but you're gonna have to let me share.
You got it.
Very
Thank you.
good. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Remember to press the sound button. Okay. This is again, here is I'm trying to remember who this is. I'll tell you in a second, but this is a report in Congress about the foods that are banned here that are not banned in America. Let's just listen to a minute of it.
In the US, there's 11 ingredients. In the UK, there's 3, and salt is optional.
These are McDonald's
An
French
ingredient
fries.
called
I heard about
dimethylpolysiloxane is an ingredient preserved with formaldehyde, a neurotoxin. This is Skittles.
Oh,
Notice
Skittles
the
again.
long list of ingredient differences. 10 artificial dyes in the US version and titanium dioxide. This ingredient is banned in Europe because it can cause DNA damage.
Wow.
Artificial dyes are made from petroleum, and products containing these dyes require a warning label in Europe.
Wow.
And they have been linked to cancer and disruptions in the immune system.
Stay away from
This
Oh,
on the
man.
screen back here is Gatorade. In the U.S., they use red 40 and caramel color. In Germany, they don't. They use carrot and sweet potatoes to color their Gatorade.
Why not?
This
Yeah.
is Doritos.
Oh, this is
The
gotta
U.S.
be
version
bad.
has 3 different artificial dyes and MSG.
Uh,
The UK version does not. General Mills is definitely playing some tricks on us. They launched a new version of Trix just recently in Australia.
There we go.
Tricks.
It has no dyes. They even advertise that when the US version still does. This is why I became a food activist. My name is Vani Hari, and I only want one thing. I want Americans to be treated the same way
Yep,
as citizens in other countries by our own American companies.
Love it. Dude, I'm hopeful that we're on our way to correcting these things. First of all,
hoping
the
too.
awareness has just gone through the roof.
It really has. It really has. And thank God it has. I mean, a lot of these things that I was reading about as I was going through that food list, I was finding out that these things are just now really hitting the radar because people really since COVID, people started to have their eyes
Not
open to the
trust.
fact that the FDA has been lying to them.
There
and
you go.
so now they're just real skeptical about everything. And thank God they are. And what a
God.
great time for somebody like RFK Jr. to be
For sure.
looking at all this kind of stuff for us. Thank God.
So for now, I'd just like to encourage people that when you're shopping, yes, take a quick look at the labels. And if you can't pronounce it, it's a good idea to steer away from it. And the things such as Whole Foods, which I'm not a fan of, especially since Amazon took over because they
Yeah.
keep dumbing it down, but they have their own line called 365. And that just means that just tons of these things cannot be in that food line. You really don't have to look at the labels if you buy their 365 brand, and they're lower in price.
I didn't know
Aldi-
that. That's pretty cool.
Dude, Aldi has put the pressure, in my opinion, they're the ones that put the pressure on Whole Foods that, thank God, because they needed it to, so that Amazon finally bought Whole Foods and has been trying to turn it around, make it profitable, which it was not for a long time. Aldi has their own brand, which is exactly like 365. It's called Simply Nature. It is this ever expanding brand line. You don't have to look at the labels. Rest assured, if you buy from that brand, that line, I mean, I haven't seen anything really bad from that. I buy tons of stuff. I'm a big Aldi fan, especially as prices have gone through the roof.
Boy, they sure have.
And still, my grocery bill has doubled over the last 4 years, for sure, if not more.
It's amazing. I mean, just
Even
go out
there.
to eat these days, and it's like, are you kidding me? When you get the bill, you're like, what?
Oh,
What
you
is
made
this?
me.
I got the wrong bill. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
yeah. You made me think of something there just real quick. I just read like yesterday, the day before, about the secrets to why are steaks at restaurants so much better than what you can make at home. And a chef got on there and said, boy, he goes, I used to work for a steak chain who was just known for their amazing steaks. And the owner himself was very secretive about this. He goes, I finally saw it one time uh, reaching for, long story short, monosodium glutamate, MSG. They
Wait,
put
what?
MSG on those steaks.
So there's a flavor to MSG? Is that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it may break down the fat or something. I mean,
Oh,
that's
I see.
literally all I know.
Monosodium glutamate.
Uh-huh. And that's everything. We've been known to steer clear of that for decades.
We
You eat
really
that in a
have.
Chinese restaurant. Oh, I don't feel it. My
That's
heart's kind of fluttery. Yeah. Stuff
that's
ain't right.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff right there. Well, I mean, anymore, you have to worry about this stuff. You eat stuff and your heart starts to flutter. That's some scary stuff
Oh,
right
that's, right, what you said right there. Lisa became, in quotes, gluten intolerant about 10 years ago. She went through this whole elimination diet study with doctors trying to figure out, what's going on. And now it's well known. I mean, many, many people are, in quotes, gluten intolerant in the United States, but can go to Europe and eat their bread and pasta without any ill effects.
That's the amazing thing. We have some friends that
Hmm.
she's gluten intolerant and she
Hmm.
can't, but she can have the bread and everything when they went to
Hmm.
Italy, no
Hmm.
problem.
It's because of the way the wheat is processed here. And
One
I
of the
think
things,
that I'm
one of the
not
things I
sure
go ahead.
if this is the one problem, but a big problem in the United States. If you recall when we were kids and learning about farming, when we were in grade school, junior high, whatever, we learned about how they rotated the crops so that
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
learned to
So
keep
the
the soil
soil
fertile.
preserve, right?
Well, they don't do that anymore. They do is monocropping. Just, hey, corn all day long, every day, 365. But they're dependent on two things. Fertilizer that is supplied by the food industry that must be supplied. That's a racket, is a cartel all in and of itself.
Mm.
And the Roundup, the chemical name for Roundup escapes me, but they genetically engineered corn so it can be sprayed, just doused with Roundup, so it'll kill everything else but the corn.
That's interesting because actually I skipped corn on my list of all of the things that were dangerous that are banned. Corn is banned in a bunch of countries coming from here because
Wow.
of the
Wow.
insecticides that they're
Yeah.
using around the
Yeah.
corn is exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Right. Right.
And not
So
not the insecticide, it's the weed killers.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
Roundup
you're
is,
right.
right?
Yeah, I knew what you were talking about. So again, for now, let's try to stick with more of these whole food options that we can, try to make it easy on ourselves. Uh, and then let's just hope and pray. Let's support the efforts of turning around the FDA. I think that there's just been such an awareness in this country since COVID. In a way, COVID has brought its own blessings, as hard as it was to go through that,
Isn't that something?
because of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How I was this whole concept of how things that are bad can turn into like things that
The
are
long
good.
game.
Yeah, I was telling my parents are in town, which
Mm,
is awesome, and I
it
was telling
is.
them about how I had all these experiences when I lived in LA that some of them were terrible, but they've turned into giant blessings for me. Like for instance, I'll go outside in the morning and I'll just take a deep breath and there's no smell in the air and I'm like, "Ah, how nice is that?"
Yeah, it's, wow, take that for granted, right?
I know, right? So it's fresh air. I love it.
Where do you want to go from here? Because I got a ton and we can pick and choose from. You know what? I do want to just throw something out real quick
Go ahead.
and see what you got on it. The Daniel Penny case.
Yeah,
Yeah,
boy, that is real interesting.
it is. I could take a second if you want and try to pull up the original. If there is an original YouTube video, somebody had to take cell phone video of that, didn't they?
I
You know,
think that I can remember seeing cell phone video of that, but
but
this is
briefly, this is the Marine who, in New York City on the subway, May 2023, he was charged with he choked out this homeless guy that was seemingly terrorizing the other passengers, and as of today, December 6th, I looked on chat and I said, what's the update on this? Because 2 days ago, they said that the jury wanted more time on the
right.
verdict of
Hmm.
whether he is going to be charged with manslaughter because he choked out this homeless guy and the guy died. And so I don't know what the percentage is, but half the people are like, hey, he saved us. He's a hero. He's a Marine, for God's sakes. And of course, the other half are like, oh, he killed this guy. He acted with reckless abandon. So as of December 6th, 2024, today, a jury in Daniel Penny's manslaughter trial has concluded 3 days of deliberations without reaching a verdict. They have reviewed key video evidence and are seeking clarification on legal definitions of recklessness, in quotes, and negligence. That's from the New York Post. Concurrently, Jordan Neely's father of the homeless victim, if you will,
Hmm.
has filed a civil lawsuit against Penny, alleging negligence, assault, and battery leading to Neely's death. That's from the AP News. What do you have insight on this opinion, Merle? I haven't delved deeply into it.
I don't have a whole lot of information except for I'll tack on to the fact that Jordan Neely, who I believe is black, and Daniel Penny is white, and so a
I
lot of the
didn't know that.
controversy around this has to do with the fact that it's a black man that was killed by a white man, and many people are saying, "Well, I bet you if he was white that he wouldn't have killed him." So there's a lot of racial tension going on over this. You've got a lot of protesters that are outside of the courthouse right now. Kind of, we've seen this kind of activity before. I'm thinking about that kid up in what was it, Kenosha, Wisconsin, that they surrounded his courthouse as well. This is kind of a thing that they do these days, but this Jordan Neely's father suing Daniel Penny is an interesting thing. Let's see, never mind the fact that they abandoned him. This is Jordan Neely's parents. They abandoned him and forced him to live out on the street for years instead of having him institutionalized where he posed a danger to them. So they're saying, oh, you want to sue over this, but you were neglecting your child. This
Oh, that's
I
a
ha
money grab for
Yeah,
sure.
and I have heard that it was they pulled a lot of witnesses during the trial that were on the train, and they were all saying that they were desperate, they were afraid of this person, they thought their life was in peril, and that they felt comforted that somebody stepped up and took care of this. And this guy is facing like 15 or
I,
25
I
years in
it
prison.
I remember when this came out of the gates. I thought it was ridiculous then, and that was a year and a half ago when the culture climate was still very much always looking for this kind of a hot topic, seeking out this kind of a hot topic. I do think I have the original video if you want to take a quick look.
Right, yeah, let's check it out.
Okay.
I'd be very interested in that.
Combination of other factors like sickle cell crisis and drug use, the defense had previously argued. Prosecutors say Penny acted recklessly, gripping Neely's neck for nearly 6 minutes, not letting go even after the train pulled into the station and passengers were able to get off.
Okay, now that's a little bit of news I did not know. So he kept hold of him for 6 minutes even after. Well, I guess he was just restraining him.
Right, that's what it was. And that's what happens. You know, at the amusement park that I worked at, there were people that would absolutely lose their mind and become extremely violent. And we'd have to sometimes hold people down until the police got there. 6 minutes is kind of typical. The police don't get there right away. So you let a guy like this up, and he's immediately going to go on the rampage again.
Let's take a look.
That's what happens.
What is here?
And asked the jury to imagine for a moment they were on that train. The trial has taken more than a month so far. Jurors have heard testimony from witnesses, police officers, and...
All right, that's enough of that. I just wanted to see what.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Well, I don't know enough to.
I don't either.
Because I'd like to not just go in half cocked with
and you can't.
Preconceived. Yeah.
And that's why we have
I do agree with what you're saying there. I think especially when you consider this happened a year and a half ago in New York. Always keep that in mind that they were looking to in what's inflammation of another racial incident. They love that stuff. They do. Yeah, the media loves that stuff.
Well, and you got to look at New York City and look at the district attorney there. It's Alvin Bragg. That's who we're dealing with here. He's the same guy that brought Trump in. You've got what's the other woman there? The black woman that is constantly. It's all about racial things.
Tish, what's her name?
I can't remember, but she's a terrible person.
I want to just share something with you real quick. I got a lot of memes, several memes I want to share with you today.
She is right there.
And Daniel Penny is a hero who saved lives of countless passengers in New York. Pray for a complete. This is a meme I just pulled this morning. If Daniel Penny happens to get convicted, I hope President Trump will pardon him. This man is a hero, not a criminal. And while he's at it, there's the picture of these three people you're just talking about. Penny being one of them. I hope he puts Bag and Fat Tish away for the rest of their miserable lives.
I mean, that was funny. They weaponized the law against people that they hate. They've used it as a racial weapon to try to put their thumb on the scales of justice. And and you see these people and they're just angry all the time. And here this guy steps up and saves people that were being threatened on a train. Who does that anymore? Especially in New York. New York is notorious for, a crime is happening and people just stand around and watch it happen. And here, this guy, a good citizen, I think about like if my mother were on that train and this guy, and all of a sudden this guy went crazy and threatened my mom's life and another man came and held him down so she wouldn't get hurt, I would be praising that guy.
Sure. Well,
I'm sorry the guy died though, but
this is, it's really a light version, if you will, of the whole George Floyd thing.
It is. It
and
really
look at the bastardization that happened with that. They erected a statue for that criminal. I mean, really, you're George Washington, and that's really what you're going to lower the bar to?
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing when you think about how we've made heroes out of these kinds of people. I don't really understand
clipping things out of context and all of that for the last 15 years or so. Yeah, that's exactly why things went the way they did in this last presidential election.
Well, have you seen the defense or the prosecuting attorney speak at all on this Daniel Penny deal?
I have not.
Oh, I think you'd find that very interesting because
I could probably find that.
Here's a story. Try to do that while I'm telling you this, because he when he pops up, you'll think, "Huh, that's an interesting person. But this person, I'm going to just say it this way: this person actually has a record of defending a person who was charged with murder. This person was charged with murder because really manslaughter, because they were in the process of robbing an old man when in the subway, when the man fell into the train tracks and died. And so this guy brags about getting this defendant a reduced sentence because he had to look at this guy's background and the hardships that he went through. He was robbing a guy when the guy died, but he's like making it seem like the guy that actually did this was the victim. and so he's the guy that's the prosecuting attorney against Daniel Penny. I say he, but everybody's saying that it's a woman, and that's got to be a man. How could that be a woman right there? I don't know. This is a very strange thing.
Okay, tell me if this is what you are looking for. The closing arguments, Daniel Perry trial. Do you think?
Well, he would be given the closing arguments. I don't know if I don't think they have a
jury in New York.
That's the case. The judge can reduce it to criminally negligent.
This trial has come to stand for so much in New York City and beyond.
That are protesting. We're dealing with at this time. So you're not going to be able to make everyone happy.
I don't want to listen.
Back.
To
yeah.
Our investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursi, just came from out.
So the judge clarified for the jury the part of the instructions where he talked about the law justifying use of force in self-defense. Maybe gives us a window into where the jurors are thinking at the outset, but there's a lot for them to consider. Not only the
all right, I guess that's
some crazy stuff right there, man. I mean, we got a lot of crazy stuff going on here. I know we wanted to talk about that the pardon that happened.
Oh God, yeah.
Week with Hunter Biden.
Yeah. I have something extremely interesting on that, and it's called a super cut. I'm not going to play all of it because, frankly, it's 9 minutes of all the media repeating in unison as
his son, if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system, and on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Like he
current
did
president of the United States has so much respect for the law that he has said he would not pardon his son.
Two clowns.
I mean, what, again, it's all about the contrast.
I got to pause that for a minute because it fries me. They go on, this is a super clip from Tom Elliott on Twitter, and he's just famous for putting the super cuts together.
Yeah.
9 minutes of the media fawning in unison over Joe Biden saying he won't pardon his son, they act as if he did something. He just said he was going to do something. Then he did not. He did the opposite. Where is the supercut of the outrage?
Right, exactly. And boy, has this ever caused outrage in the look, I just read a Rasmussen that 63% of Americans do not approve of this pardon. That would be a super majority. Only 30% did approve of that whole thing. But, I got to say, it seemed obvious to me that he was going to do this and not let his son go to prison. He was facing the sentencing for his 3 crimes, 3 felonies. The gun charge was one of them. he was going to be sentenced. He actually was facing over 10 years in prison. That was going to happen this month. And so here's the sitting president. I can't imagine Joe Biden not actually pardoning his son after looking at his track record.
Oh, he's so corrupt. He's been corrupt his entire career.
Everything's been a lie here, but now this whole thing is the Democrats have a lot of uphill to do because they have posed as the party of law and order, and now this has really come to slap them in the face, and it does open up the door for Trump to go ahead and pardon all the January 6ers that are still in jail right now, and really have something to go back on and say, well, look what Biden did.
I wanted to ask you two things, two very important things I sincerely don't know the answer to. Can this be overturned by Trump in any way? And two,
No.
that's kind of this. Oh, really? Okay.
No.
That was an easy.
Once a pardon has been done, no one can overturn a pardon, not even the president. Now, a pardon can be rejected by the recipient. And that's happened in the past before, because a pardon and the acceptance of a pardon actually can be viewed as accepting and admitting guilt.
But he already admitted guilt for that reason.
And listen, so the pardon does not expunge your record either. That crime is still going to be on Hunter Biden's record. He's just not going to be penalized for it. He's not going to have his life or liberty impacted by that, by going to jail, but he'll still have that on his record. But yeah, presidents, I did a little research on this. Presidents have the ability. It says in the Constitution, Article Section 2, it says, he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So there's some real gray area in here. For instance, you have to look at these words, he shall have power to grant. And so that means, typically it means that he could give it to somebody else, and he could give it to anybody that he chooses at any time. But he can only pardon people of federal offenses. He can't pardon anybody of state offenses. So that's kind of interesting.
That is.
Yeah. So here's something to think about this pardon that I think is very interesting, Barry, is the fact that now that Hunter Biden has been pardoned, the interesting thing is that prohibits him from being able to use the Fifth Amendment if he were being called into trial to testify against his father. The reason that he can't use the Fifth Amendment, which is the Fifth Amendment is the amendment that says that you don't have to incriminate yourself. So you can just take the Fifth Amendment. But if you've been pardoned, then there's no incrimination that can happen if you tell the truth. So therefore, the Fifth Amendment is void in this case. That means,
but all he says is, I don't recall. Ronald Reagan did that forever. I don't recall.
He could do that, and I guess that's something that he could do. But this is where the gray area comes in: is that if there's evidence that he could actually be thrown in jail for contempt by just refusing to answer questions that he clearly knows. So the fact of the matter is that this could be used against Joe Biden. And now comes the question of, can Joe Biden pardon himself before the end of his term?
But he would have to plead guilty.
Well, he doesn't have to plead guilty, because here's the deal with the pardon is that you don't even have to be accused of the crime in order to be pardoned for it. So if you take a look at Hunter Biden's pardon that he got, there are crimes between the dates of January, I think, 2014 until the end of December this year that he's been pardoned of. We know of those 3 crimes. But any other crime that he may have committed in that time period, he's also been pardoned of. So that means that you can pardon without actually being accused of a crime. that would make it look like he might be guilty. But when you take a look at what he could be accused of now that Hunter Biden can speak, he may need to pardon himself on this. Now, is it legal for him to pardon himself? Well, that's what I was looking into. No president has done that before. The closest we came was President Nixon, and in the face of imminent impeachment, and he had not been impeached yet, but in the face of that, he resigned, and his lawyers said that they looked at the Constitution and found that they felt that it would be illegal if he pardoned himself. But there's a whole nother school of thought that says that because the Constitution doesn't prohibit him from pardoning himself, that legally would allow him to do that. Big gray area in our Constitution, and we're going to see how that plays out.
Here's another thing I got to ask you, because this sounds so silly, that it must be wrong. I seem to have gotten the idea somewhere that if someone like Hunter is pardoned, that they can't be convicted of a felony for anything in the future going forward.
The thing about the pardon is that you can only pardon for things that have happened in the past. It does not give you a so-called license to kill. So there's no pardon that you could give to somebody that would make them able to commit crimes in the future. However, I did actually research something that was an interesting loophole in this whole pardon situation. So it is possible that the president could set up a situation where it's legal to kill somebody. So what he could do is he could say that so-and-so is a threat to the United States, and anybody that kills that person would be pardoned by me. Of course, that situation hasn't happened that we know of, but this is something that is a possibility, sort of a loophole in our law.
Okay. Yeah, I could totally see that happening. I don't know why this popped in my head. It's not even in my notes, and it's not related to this. I just wondered if you know of any new blowback to Kamala Harris's over expenditures on her campaign, which is just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. I heard it's $2 billion now.
I tell you what, it's too.
I heard that somewhere. I know it was 2 million over a $1 billion budget, something like that. Did I say that wrong?
I actually hadn't heard any of that kind of stuff. I did want to tie off one thing on the president, though, on the pardon thing, because I found some interesting things I just wanted to throw out there. One of them is that I just looked at the history of pardons, because it's like, why does the president have the ability to pardon somebody in the first place? Isn't that kind of like I thought we were law and order. Why are you going to pardon somebody?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I was like, that seems like a bad thing that the president would have that. And so I went into the history. First, I found out, has anybody pardoned their relative before? Has that ever happened? Well,
gotta be. It's got to be like almost all the cases.
Bill Clinton pardoned his brother.
Oh, that's
who was
right.
being
I remember
investigated.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. So that was a big deal. Let's see. A couple of more very controversial ones was the end of the Civil War. President Johnson pardons the Confederates. And then when you take a look at the first pardons.
Wait a minute. Was that a blanket pardon?
Yes, it sure was. So all of them were pardoned. Those people were not prosecuted in a court of law. Also, you had the first pardons were under George Washington. It was called the Whiskey Rebellion. It is when the United States decided to tax whiskey, and the people that were whiskey makers decided to rebel against that, and it turned into an armed conflict. George Washington actually sent the military in against these armed protesters, and that's how it was settled.
Dude, that sounds so cartel-like.
This is some crazy stuff right here, but you have to remember, under the Constitution at that time, income tax was illegal.
That's my point.
This type of tax is exactly why they fought the Revolutionary War.
That's my point. That's exactly what I'm saying. That sounded like we instantly became the cartel.
Well, here's what happened is that two of the leaders were convicted of treason, and of course, you get hung for treason. George Washington pardoned those two people. Now, think about this. This really settled the whole rebellion. It smoothed it out. There was controversy over this whole thing, but here's George Washington having to, now he's the executive. Of course, he's not the one that convicted these people. That was our judicial branch did that. But now here's George Washington, a person who did the exact same thing against the British government, now has to execute these two people for doing what George Washington did as a hero. And so he pardons those two people. Those were the first pardons. And so as I look into this whole subject of pardoning, it turns out that the divine right of kings and monarchs have had the power of pardon for centuries before that. And we came from a monarch. That's where our people came from. And they kept that as part of the deal. But what we've also seen is that it works as a check and a balance against the judicial and legislative system. The legislature can make a law, the judicial system can convict on that law, but the president can then balance it out because he's the executive. And
you put it that way, I get it. And
this is what solved the Civil War and what prevented it from becoming an armed conflict again. By the president's ability to forgive that by pardon, it caused peace.
And looking to the near future, it could also rectify the really dark stuff that went on with this January 6th crap.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where we're headed next with this.
Mm-hmm. So in those regards, I mean, it was birthed out of this shady controversy in this Washington thing. Yeah. But I see when you talk about our three balances of power, the separations of power, I see the purpose. I can see
same here.
Purpose, and I can see an adulteration of it too.
It was an interesting journey. You kind of gave me an assignment here this week, and I was like, "Oh,
you were just the guy for that."
Let me look into. I was so excited when you sent that to me. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to find out. Why is that? And
that was really very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had no idea about this stuff with Washington and the whiskey. What's it called?
The Whiskey Rebellion. Yeah, that was like 1784, right at the beginning of his presidency.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was thinking Washington, we were barely the country yet. We were just coming off of the whole Tea Party thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as soon as you were telling me that, it smacked me in the face of hypocrisy.
It's like, we're them. Yeah, we're the redcoats now. Exactly.
I thought it took us like 100 years to turn into that. It did not.
Instantly, we were the evil empire,
right? Right. Dude, interject where you want and take the reins when you want. I
do have a pretty interesting story going on right now in healthcare. I bet you, if you've seen this in the news, the United Healthcare CEO was killed in Manhattan.
That's where I was going. That's where I was going.
Oh my God, Barry! This is
it's huge.
Easy stuff going on because here
it's right out of a movie.
And, I'm in healthcare. And so we talked about this on the show when Change Healthcare happened and suddenly people couldn't get their prescriptions anymore. Hospitals were losing millions of dollars a day because they were going to have to go out on the limb and buy these medications for their patients. And this went on for months. Hospitals lost billions of dollars. The Change Healthcare is a subsidiary of United Healthcare. We saw this CEO we saw him in Congress and congressional hearings because of the lack of security, which caused the breach in the first place. It had to do with two-factor authentication, which is a norm nowadays in corporations that they had not enforced it and lost billions. They also were loaning money to hospitals. So United Healthcare became sort of a loan shark to hospitals during that time. and they picked their favorites, of course. We saw a lot of real shady stuff happening because what happened was there was a company that came in to do the investigation, got paid a lot of money for doing it, and just coincidentally, Nancy Pelosi invested $250,000 in that company 2 days before the breach happened.
Really?
Oh my God. And also, United Healthcare is being investigated by the DOJ right now for antitrust violations. And really, you have to look at them as RICO charges where they're eliminating competition right now. And this guy was just about to testify and spill the beans. When you take a look at the murder that happened, which is videotaped, the person that takes the shot seems very calm as he levels his gun and shoots the man in the back. And then his gun jams. He's very calm and finishes him off. I don't know if he shot him again, but he walks away. And this doesn't look to me like a disgruntled person that got their insurance denied. It actually looks like a hitman to me.
Yeah, I mean, look at this guy right here, how calm he looks right here. So is there truth to the fact, like, his first attempt, it said that his gun was jammed?
Mm-hmm.
And then he pursued him and then continued. That right there is like, oh, he's done this before.
Yeah, apparently he was at a Starbucks and was very calm, drinking coffee before that. Somebody that is going to have to murder somebody and planning on murder isn't just calmly having a cup of coffee beforehand. So this looks like a professional hit. Now, here's something interesting, Barry, is that the bullet casings had something written on them. And yeah, and so they think he was trying to send a message.
Deny, deflect, something like that.
Delay, deny, defend. Those were the three words. Now, there's a book out there called Delay, Deny, Defend.
Right.
And this is why insurance companies don't pay claims and what you can do about it. So there's speculation that this person did get their insurance denied or somebody in their family. However, when you take a look at the video of the murder, I don't get that feeling at all.
Yeah. It's a good, easy to believe cover, though.
Yeah, it is an easy to believe cover, but it looks like there's a lot of nefarious business happening. The government is involved. We've got high-level government players heavily invested in this. Oh, by the way, United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, the CEO, is the highest paid CEO in all of healthcare. And the company is owned 92%, or is it 96%, by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. So this is a globalist deal that's happening right here. It's very interesting. And oh, by the way, all the CEOs in healthcare insurance right now are battening down the hatches. They've got their bodyguards surrounding them, and many of them have received death threats since this murder happened.
Wow. Well, I have to say, the whole healthcare industry is coming to a head.
It really is.
As we come up on this election. And so many things about this country are. And thank God, because it just didn't look like we could take this any further without crashing and burning. So we either rescue it in a firestorm of an attempt, or we go down and we crash the dollar and we change our government into something communist, some sort of communist. It looked like we were going in that direction. Now it just looks like we're going into a fight, a big fight.
It does. And, you mentioned cartels as we were talking about the last subject, and it's like, man, it's like our government has become a cartel.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at, United Healthcare and you have to equivocate that to pharmaceutical drugs, and how the pharmaceutical companies have just taken over and been a big part of taking over our society. And this is really ugly. It's really ugly. And all of this is healthcare related. And right now, if I had a loved one that had to go to the hospital, you can bet that I am not going to leave that hospital. I'm not going to leave that room. I don't trust anymore. It's just, you can't trust anymore.
No. Well, I mean, it got so ridiculous right here, right now, at this pinnacle that the pharmaceutical industry, as you said, how that's pretty much who they're in cahoots with. They pump out Ozempic and all of the other similar products for weight loss. As we just discussed, the corruption of the food industry.
Right. It's not a coincidence.
And you have to stay on Ozempic for life once you get started.
Is that right?
Otherwise,
I did not know that.
You rebound back.
Boy, what an annuity plan they got going on there.
I mean, my God. I mean, so you come out of COVID. Oh, well, what do we say to our boards now, to our shareholders that are expecting more record profits after COVID? How do we trump that?
Yeah.
Well, Ozempic's a pretty good way to go after you've already corrupted the entire food industry so everyone's obese, unhealthy, and dying. And reversed, we were always increasing our life expectancy, and the U.S. used to lead the way, the world. And now we've been sliding backwards as a result of our food.
Well, and also, our mortality rate here in the United States is such a great story. When, we talked about the Revolutionary War, when our mortality rate was around 40 years old. We've doubled that here in the United States, but now we can see the statistics. We're ticking backwards now.
Yeah, it's just a result of the food. So there's a number of other things that I wanted to cover too, and I'm sure that you have some stuff as well. I'll save that one for a little later. But one of them, which I only did quick research on, I used chat for it, was I wanted to cover very unbiasedly the pros and cons of Trump's proposed tariff policies. And the reason for that is it's just another thing where people want to pick their side and get their sound bites and talk and yell them at their friends. And that just bothers me so much. So
I agree with that.
I looked it up because it's easy to say, oh, well, he's just going to increase the cost of these products, which is going to hurt us all. That's all there is to it. So
I've heard that before.
I've heard that plenty. Oh, I do want to mention, just while I have a minute, while it's in front of me, stay tuned at the end for Mark's latest 2-minute AI DIY tip.
Those are good.
God, they have been really good. I've learned a lot from them, and I thought I was really on top of everything. So let's get back to this. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with my notes so we can just follow along. And so both sides of the argument, the pros of Trump's tariff policies, and that is to protect domestic industries. The tariffs are aimed to shield American manufacturers and farmers from foreign competition, promoting local jobs and production. Number two, both of these only have 3 points. I asked it to get really brief.
I like that.
Number two of the pro for the Trump tariff policies: leverage in trade negotiations. Use tariffs to pressure countries like China into renegotiating trade deals perceived as unfair. This one I've heard a lot more about, and I like that one.
So
Number three, reduces trade deficit. So aimed to balance trade by making imported goods more expensive, encouraging domestic alternatives. Now, this I think is, rather interesting. When I heard somebody yesterday make a comment how Amazon is basically the Alibaba of America.
Right.
And I'd never thought of it that way. But if you think about it, I love Amazon. Most of us love Amazon because it made online shopping, revolutionized it, to say the least. And you can get almost anything you want at a very, very competitive or affordable price and dumped right on your doorstep, very often the same day.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you really take a look at these products, I don't know if you say most, but probably most of them are manufactured in China.
Correct.
Yeah, so there's that.
This is a big deal. The reducing trade deficit is a key performance indicator for nations around the world. I was reading about the history of Spain and what happened several hundred years ago when they were really infused with a lot of gold. And this was a very rich nation at one time. But what ended up happening with this gold was it made people very unambitious, and the trade deficit. So they, instead of manufacturing their own stuff, they were basically getting everything imported to them. Well, as a result, the gold ebbs out of Spain and into these other countries, leaving Spain destitute, and they've never been able to recover from that. Trade deficits can break or make a country, and so great rendition on that.
There is also, this just occurred to me. I remember reading a couple months ago or a month ago, but so it's certainly not fresh in my mind, but about how when we were helping China recover its economy, it was in a bad way 20 years ago or so. And so we let them impose all of these trade deals on us, tariffs on us, but none on them. And there's so many ways. Do just a tiny bit of research and you will find China is favored worldwide in the UN and in every kind of international law. They have all of these favored policies.
Right.
And we've never done anything to rectify that as they have gained their power, got on their feet, and even more so.
Right.
Now they are trying to dominate. What is one?
Well, you brought up Alibaba. They can ship because of their favored nation status. They can ship something to me at faster and at a lower price than a company in my own town can. That's how it works. There's just a totally unfair advantage that they have over our own American companies.
Well, there you go. So that's some good conversation right there. Okay, let's talk about the cons of the tariff policies. And I know that there can be some slippery slopes with that. What I come to kind of surmise with the tariff policies, I probably should end with this, but since I started saying it, is that it's something that has to be monitored and used correctly and possibly adjusted and repealed when they're not working in our
Absolutely.
favor.
That's absolutely. I mean, this is something that's like it's never one and done. It's constantly monitored and adjusted because of the political winds that are happening around the world.
Good way to put it. Okay, so let's. We got three of them. Okay, one con. First con against the tariff policies: higher consumer costs, increased prices on imported goods. Totally can see that. Affecting customers and consumers and businesses reliant on foreign products, of course. Number two, retaliation from other countries led to retaliatory tariffs harming U.S. exporters, particularly in agriculture. Okay, so what that is saying, because I read it so poorly in my opinion, is that other countries will get an advantage, be able to find favoritism in exporting their goods over the U.S., where maybe our farmers were relying on exporting X amount of stuff.
Big time. That's exactly correct.
Okay. Number three, final one. Disruption to global supply chains created uncertainty and inefficiencies for businesses relying on international trade. How would you unpack that one?
Well, here's what I would say is that going to the tariff is a very interesting thing, especially when you consider U.S. history, is that was the only tax that we had until 1913 is tariff tax. We didn't have an income tax. And at the time of 1913, as a result of how we were doing things, we were the #1 manufacturer in the world. So we became a superpower without income tax and using tariff taxes, which absolutely made it. Why were we the #1 manufacturer? It's because of the tariff tax prevented foreign countries from taking over our business. So we made things in the United States. We manufactured them in the United States, and as a result, we had a gigantic growing middle class. It's really the middle class that brings freedom to a country. Other countries under tyranny have the elite, and then you have the commoners. Middle class is really a unique invention of the United States, and so this is where it becomes interesting, because I can, to your point, Barry, a tariff managed poorly can really give us a black eye. And also tariffs without reducing income tax is just another invisible tax, really. We have to look at this very carefully. Go ahead, Barry.
Let me interject on that point. Okay, so you made me think of something very important that is of today's world, today's world economy. When you said before income tax, we only had tariffs for taxes, and that was super important. As I totally understand, it makes common sense to me. To make our middle class strong, to make manufacturing competitive with countries who do not treat their workers fairly. So today we find ourselves in a world economy where we've become 100% reliant on slave labor. And it's uncomfortable for us to talk about, though the conversation has been happening.
Yeah, this is the truth.
So I don't care what team you're on, what side of the aisle you're on, if you must be on a side and must pick a team. It's got to hurt your heart to know that children are making key components in our phones that every one of us has in our pockets and in our electric cars, probably all of our cars. I don't know, the clothes that we're wearing.
This is the truth.
And
this is a very great point.
Can this tariff, how can we see a change in tariff policies along with the reduction in income tax rectify this situation in some way?
I think so. I think absolutely.
Can we pressure China to stop with slave labor?
Well, the pressure that we can put on them is financial by not buying these products. That is a gigantic win for slave labor, because if you don't have a demand for the product they're putting out there, which the United States is the greatest demand that they have, you're just not going to have a need for all that slave labor. Without going into the country and managing the country ourselves, which we really can't do, this is the biggest thing that we can do. Personally, my motto is try not to buy Chinese anything right now because of exactly what you're saying.
But that's hard to do when our economy is in the tank.
It really is hard to do.
You can't make ends meet.
The change has to happen, and it's going to be painful at first, to the point that you made with those three bottom con points. But eventually it will even out, because we're going to have more jobs here in the United States, more manufacturing jobs, of really tons of new manufacturing jobs at good wages. So with those price changes that could happen, you'll also have higher wages, which is something we haven't seen in the last few years. And so these things tend to even out. And then what we have to do is we have to change our debt-based monetary system to a gold-based or silver-based standard, so that we can avoid the inflationary results of that debt-based monetary system. So you put those two things together, and we've got a very long, prosperous future in front of us. And we really have that opportunity right now.
Here's another big side to that, and that is with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy heading up the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I heard my critique I heard on it is laughable. Someone said, "Oh, I hear that they're hiring for the government of efficiency, Department of Government Efficiency. So we're going to spend $100 million on that." Ha, 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 ha. Well, I mean, That's just like going to a punchline without knowing the joke or something like
That's
that.
a
It's
good
like,
analogy. Yeah.
I mean, do you understand if somebody's going to invest $100 million so that you could get a return of $500 billion, meaning in
Or much more.
saving? Yeah. I call that a great investment all day long.
I mean, seriously, talk about, there's a line in the Bible that says, you're so concerned about the speck in this other guy's eye when you've got a whole plank in your eye.
Right. Now, let's take that as we did the tariff policy, and let's not just go foolishly blind down that road. Let's say that you displace 5 million workers out of their government jobs. That's going to have a temporary painful effect.
Sure it is. In many different ways. One of them is on the private sector and in the job market, because all these people are going to be needing jobs, right?
Right.
So, like we said before, there's things that have to happen in tandem in order to provide jobs for people like this. I think that there's opportunity there if we are using tariff taxes to bring manufacturing back to the United States. That's going to open up a lot of new employment opportunities. Look, over the last 4 years, the employment opportunities have all come through the government. But the government doesn't produce anything. I just saw a report the other day that said that the highest per capita housing is in Washington, D.C., which points to the fact that this is where all the money is being made. But yet Washington, D.C. doesn't produce anything. They just do government work. It's like, how did Joe Biden make all that money? How did Nancy Pelosi make all of that money? Well, it's because these people are surviving off of government spending, which is causing massive inflation, which is basically them reaching into our back pockets and stealing our money. It'd be one thing if they taxed our money, but when they print the money, it's a sneaky way of them just commandeering money out of our right out of our wallets.
It's the biggest tax we have today.
It is the biggest. And if we were to calculate really how much that costs, our income tax that we get would be looked at as peanuts compared to what we're paying in these taxes or that are coming in the invisible form. Another invisible form of tax is what they're doing with these insurance companies, which brings us back to the United Healthcare again. People are disgruntled with this runaway insurance bit that's happening right now, and we are paying through the nose, and it is going up and up and up. So maybe what's happened here with the CEO of United Healthcare will bring attention to the fact that these people in insurance companies have really caused a problem. And what can we do to prevent this kind of thing? Barry, when I moved from California to here to Arizona, the insurance costs that I was able to save combined was about $1,000 a month.
Wow.
Think about that. Think about that.
Astronomical.
It is astronomical. Just for insurance. These people are like pirates.
Well, for sure. And they have a sliding scale so that they can get every penny they can out of every economic class. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Loopholes to protect them, but not to protect us. So, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, I'm dying in this. Oh, yeah, but you didn't get sick on Tuesday. Didn't read the fine print, did you?
Right. So, yeah, thank God that we're seeing this team of people get put in place to turn these important things around. A couple of weeks ago, I listened to a fantastic interview Lex Friedman did with Javier Milei, the libertarian president of Argentina.
Oh, man, he is something, isn't he?
It was fascinating. I liked the guy based on what I had heard and things like that. But after listening to that interview, which is all done through a translator, very slickly done, I have to say, I really fell in love with this guy. And as I understand it, RFK Jr. and Vivek Ramaswamy themselves Elon and Vivek have met with him, have been modeling many of their efficiency principles after, because he's had huge success. When he took office like a year ago,
yeah,
as I recall, he told everybody, look, for about 3 years, it's going to be painful as we make these changes. Doing exactly, they're like at least 5 years in front of the United States of our trajectory. And he has turned it around way quicker than this 3 years, man. They're just seeing, I literally should have, it only just occurred to me as we were talking here that I listened to, that this interview came back into my mind. I really should listen to it all over again so I can talk with more specifics. But he has had huge success in turning around Argentina. And there's just a lot of positive things going on. And what we can take from that is Elon and Vivek are studying that process of what they did and are replicating a lot of it.
Argentina was an extremely prosperous nation for some time until right around the 1950s. It's all about corruption that happened in that government, and it's been like that ever since. And this guy came in as the anti-corruption guy. He modeled himself after Trump, my understanding is. And so I don't know that he would have reached his level of success that he's gotten to without having Trump as a forerunner, because the attention that Trump got in that country actually helped him to win that election. And it has been amazing to see him come in like a bull in the china shop and just wipe out long-standing infrastructures that have served to really oppress the people in Argentina. And it's been really a very refreshing thing to see. Guys like that give me a lot of hope. Meanwhile, I'm taking a look at Canada, and we've got Pierre Poilievre that is gunning for the prime minister job up there, and you've got Trudeau just going down to Chinatown right now. I mean,
about time, man.
He's looking pretty bad. I heard he was at Mar-a-Lago over the Thanksgiving weekend, and that they were saying that he had his hat handed to him or something like that. Like it didn't work out very well for him down there. But Canada's in bad shape after what Trudeau has done up there, and love to see some changes happen up there. But this Poilievre guy kind of reminds me of Trump as well.
Okay, with that, we got to really start winding up. I just wanted to mention about a couple other appointees. I don't know much about this Kash Patel, who's been nominated.
A lot of controversy there.
Is that right? What is the controversy?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I always thought Kash Patel was a good guy, but I'm hearing like now that he's been. And there was a lot of talk that they were going to put him into that position, but now that they've put him up there,
the position is director of the FBI. By the
way. They're concerned about him getting retribution for what happened on January 6th and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a good pick personally.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you about that. Okay, one that's bothering the heck out of me is Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We go ahead.
I get most of my inside opinions from Dave Smith because I just happen to find that I agree with most everything that he says.
Makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Yeah, and his opinions. Wherever I snagged this from, I don't remember. And it was like the BBC. I'm pretty sure it was. They say he takes a hawkish view on China. Okay, but Rubio, Smith says, oh my God, he's just like. Trump sidestepped at the last minute now 2 horrible picks that were being bandied about. Big names. I forget. I call her War Machine Haley. War Machine Haley. Nikki Haley. And there's another one. And that he was floating. He seemed to have been floating. And Dave Smith went on Rogan and is like, please, for the love of God, don't do that. But then he's like, oh, Marco Rubio, same thing. This is like in payment for some of the corporate donor money that he surely received, as everybody does in our corrupt system as you rise up to presidency. Now,
I've heard some rumors on this, because it is a strange pick in my opinion too. Rubio being a Secretary of State. Somebody told me, yeah, really, what's happening here is that they're trying to move Rubio out of that Senate position, and that Trump's plan is to fire Marco Rubio once he puts him in there.
That. You might have told me that.
Why is that? These are all just rumors I've heard. Is that the plan is to put Laura Trump in as senator in Florida? Now think about it. Now that Marco Rubio is out of the Senate position, it is up to DeSantis to replace that position.
Right.
And so the talk is that they're going to replace him with Laura Trump, which is obviously somebody that Trump would trust. What she did on the campaign trail to eliminate election fraud was Herculean. And so that would be an interesting thing. So we'll see what happens there, but I'm with you. It seems like an odd pick.
Okay. Defense Secretary. This one just struck me as odd the whole way along. Pete Hegseth from Fox News. That's the only place I know him from, is subbing on the 5 now and then. And but
why defense secretary? Like what? Yeah, I don't really understand his qualifications.
War vet or something, but that seemed like a strange one. But I read some good things about him. Then all of a sudden, I'm reading about him supposedly being a heavy drinker and a wife beater. But
that's what I heard too.
Never know what to believe, especially when those kind of personal accusations get thrown out. Next thing you know, they're going to find child porn on his computer. Anytime I hear that anymore, it's like, okay, give me the name of the 3-letter agency that found that.
Of course.
Okay, now this one, Merle, Attorney General Pam Bondi. I didn't know who she was till I read up on her a little bit after the strange pick of Matt Gaetz was thrown out there for Attorney General. And then, of course, the controversy came up with him. He withdraws, which is, to me, like admitting some guilt there. But why did he not go with Pam Bondi in the first place? After I read up on her, she sounds like an amazing pick.
She does, actually. She's the Attorney General in Florida. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, she does sound amazing. She's really got it together. And sometimes, I don't know the answers to this, Barry, but I do know that Trump seems to be playing a very strategic game here as he goes into this new term. And I feel like he's learned a lot of lessons from the last term. He really got stabbed in the back by a lot of these people. And I feel like he's putting people up like Marco Rubio for maybe other reasons. I just remember that Attorney General pick, Jeff Sessions, last time, and how that ricocheted back and gave Trump a black eye when he recused himself from the Russian collusion hoax. And so I don't think that picking Gaetz was a mistake. I think that was part of his strategy, and I don't think we're going to understand why that happened for some time now, but I bet you we're going to figure that out soon, and we're going to talk about it on the show, because I think this whole thing is very interesting to me.
Well, okay, that I think your take there is interesting too. Okay, winding up with a few things here. So there's Miriam Adelson. She's an Israeli-American physician and widow of casino magnate Sheldon Adelson. So she's really rich, prominent Republican donor and supporter of Trump in the 2020 election. And she contributed over $100 million into his super PAC. I know that Dave Smith said, she bought, and I forget who that pick was, a very important and influential position.
How is that? Well, and that happens. You have your donors and everything, and the big donors can have a bit of a say in things, and that's not unusual, actually. But it's better when they come out and tell us that that's happening instead of keeping that hidden from us.
I just don't like that. This sounds like this big pro-Israeli thing, in which case all I want to say about that is I want them to end the war, and I don't want them to just fund and continue to fund this horrific war.
And I think that, once we saw this and talked about it on the show, that once Trump was elected, Hamas was willing to talk about ending that war. And I really believe that that's what's going to happen here. But again, we'll have to see. That military industrial complex is a very strong influence on the world, and it's out of control. So I do also anticipate that we're going to see many challenges to Trump in the first few months of his term, because the globalists are very upset that he's going to be in there. Of course, they tried to kill him. And of course, we saw how they tried to sabotage everything the last time. Of course, they're not done with that.
Yeah, what I worry about a lot is maybe we should rethink this lame duck period of time here. Because, right now, between now and January 20th, they have been like this launching, allowing Israel to launch these missiles and,
Ukraine.
Yes, Ukraine, allowing them to launch American missiles into Russia. Are you freaking kidding me? So these kind of things, they're doing this because they have this period of time between now and January 20th. God only knows what else they're going to do to set this country up for failure. I didn't say it. Now, I was going to say to set Trump up for failure. No, it's me and you that pay the price.
This is the important point that you're making, Barry, is that this has never been about Donald Trump. It's about me and you. And the attack is on our liberties, our freedoms that were God-given to us. And really, it also stems back to how they keep telling us that we live in a democracy instead of a constitutional republic. A democracy is about the collective, and a constitutional republic is about the individual and our individual rights that they want to take away from us. And so, this is what this whole movement is about. And what I'm very encouraged about is that in order for Trump to win the popular election, that means that people are seeing what you and I are seeing. And they're seeing it's not, and really I voted for Trump, but I didn't do it because I love Donald Trump. I did it because I love this country, and I can see what's happening with this country. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust anybody in government. We're not supposed to. We're supposed to keep them accountable. That's what the First Amendment is all about. But what I saw was it looked like one party was trying to give up our sovereignty to the globalists, and another one wanted to keep our sovereignty here. And so that's why I voted the way that I voted. But I'll tell you what, I will turn against them in a heartbeat if I see that they're going in that same direction the other party was going. And again, I don't think it's about the party, because I think the Republican Party itself was going in the same direction the Democrats were doing it, just using different language.
Dude, totally. It was a uniparty.
This administration, hated by the Republicans themselves, is the thing that makes me encouraged that these people are talking about taking back our constitutional republic, which is about me individually. And that's what the country is really all about. And
I want to reiterate what you said, because I've been thinking a lot about this, is the divide, and which should always be on our mind. And how do we get past that? Well, we have to see all sides of everything. And then you want to pick the one that has that on the scale is tipping in our favor, but it's never one-sided. And so when we see this transition of power happen, God willing, he makes it to that point. And we see that this whole new team infiltrating these areas of corruption throughout the government, we need to hold them accountable every step of the way for these 4 years. It's 4 short years. And if we see funny business going on, we see bad decisions being made, we need to talk about that. In other words, we don't need to be a cheerleader for Trump and his administration. We need to hold him with a heavy critique, with a critical eye during these 4 years, and speak out against things that we don't see, that aren't happening fast enough, aren't happening strong enough. And then hopefully at the end of that 4 years, we can celebrate victories at that point.
I agree. And I would add in there that it's not just the Trump administration. These guys have to keep their eye on the ball for both sides of that aisle, and they have to fairly question both sides. They have to be able to, they're not supposed to be friends with a certain party and enemies with another. That's absolutely ridiculous. And we as a people should not take that any longer, because that's how our First Amendment has been weaponized against us. We need that First Amendment to be dusted off, polished up, and really enforced, because that's how they've been screwing with us right here. They've been fooling us with that whole thing. And I got to say, I'm tired of it. Yeah. So.
For sure. I think it's rather obvious both parties are going to have to reinvent themselves. The Democratic Party went way off the rails. We thought we were getting moderate Joe Biden in there. Yeah, that's a
Joe Biden.
Radical,
right, exactly.
Radical far left, crazy authoritarian crap. And they tried to pull it every trick in the book on us. It was all seen. It all came out. The media needs to be torn down, rebuilt, and so does the Democratic Party. It needs to refine itself. As you said, the Republican Party, they're oh my God, I can't even believe what's going on behind the scenes right now, because the wild card got in there, and now they're threatened. They have to reinvent themselves. They are being infiltrated as we speak. We see what's happening with Zuckerberg at Facebook. He's seen the writing on the wall. He's turned his cheek the other way, now coming around. Who are some others? There's been some others in very recent, like this week, a couple other people seem to be trying to come to the table too. And we just saw, what's his name? Even Trudeau goes down to Mar-a-Lago. Joe Scarborough.
Sheinbaum of Mexico. He's had a conversation with the president of Mexico, and she's agreed to help with the immigration crisis here. And look, she was so threatened by this is beautiful, Barry, because you talked about those tariffs earlier, and this is exactly what caused this to happen. Trump threatened tariffs. She threatened tariffs back. They went and talked, because really this is David threatening Goliath with tariffs. It's like, I don't want your breadcrumbs, but you actually need my steak.
Right.
And so they had a conversation. After the conversation was over, the Trump administration announces, hey, that was a great meeting. Sheinbaum's very reasonable, and we've got a great agreement going. She's going to help us out. Instead of saying, I beat her down and we got what we wanted.
That is his method. His methodology is what you're saying.
He's changed that. He is telling people, like, he's bringing people on their side that were enemies, and now they're in cooperation. Now who knows what happened behind the scenes? I bet you it got ugly, but the way that it's being presented is, hey, she's reasonable and we're working together. And I like that method. I think that's going to work, actually.
I think that's his tried and true, same old method. My point was to that, like, think back to North Korea and Kim Jong-un, little rocket man. He beats somebody up, and then they come and negotiate, and then they're buddies.
You're right about that. It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me, like, when I was a kid, sometimes I'd get in these fist fights as a boy, and I had quite a few of them, actually. And but then after the fight's over, you become friends, because you respect each other now. Hey, that was a pretty good hit you had right there.
I guess so. It didn't quite go that well in my neighborhood. We held grudges for a while, but that's okay. Let's wind this up, and chime in when you got something else as well you want to finish up on. I have a few memes for you that I wanted to share with you, because I just think they're great. They move me. This one I actually recreated for our own purposes, that I thought would go well on the Over 50 Starting Over homepage. I added the anti-censorship cancel culture thing to the bottom. Let's explain this to the listeners. Those who
I like your logo a lot.
Thank you. It says, I'd rather be excluded for those I include than included for those I exclude. All right, let's explain what that means. I'd rather be excluded for those I include. So I want to embrace Elon Musk. I want to embrace Tulsi Gabbard. I want to embrace who's some other Democrats. And you know what? People are going to hate me for that and put me on the outside. Joe Rogan is a perfect example. Joe Rogan has traditionally been a very pretty leftist guy by his own admission, though he's completely independent. But the left cast him out because he gives airtime to people like Elon. The left loved Elon Musk. Man, all the electric cars. Get an electric car so you can virtue signal. Get a Tesla.
Yeah.
Now they cast him out.
Remember, they loved Trump too.
Well, that's very true as well. I'm not going to. So I'm an independent. I love those people for standing up for their values. Tulsi Gabbard. They hate Tulsi Gabbard now. Democrat, total Democrat in principle. Right? Yeah. And so I'd rather be excluded for those I include.
RFK, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Than included for those I'm not going to. Okay, then included for those I exclude. That's exactly what the far left does. I'm included. I'm in your party because I exclude Tulsi Gabbard. I say no to Trump. I say no to RFK. I say no to Elon.
I gotcha. Yep. Isn't that something? What a weird thing that is.
Yeah. So I think that one's very important.
And the logo is a big caricature of the bird.
Flying the bird to censorship and cancel culture. Don't threaten me with cancel culture. I don't want to be part of your
This is like a don't tread on me kind of thing here.
Hey, that's a really good way.
That's
like exactly right, man. It's a modern day don't tread on me.
Yeah, it's a modern day.
We really need to
that's our flag.
Yeah.
Can you imagine flying that flag?
All right, dude. So a few days ago you sent me a picture of all the books that you read this year, which was considerable. Yes. And I ran across this morning. The perfect bookshelf decor doesn't exist. Oh, yes, it does.
Jack Nicholson.
This is, okay, for those listening, this is a statue of a head, and it's Jack Nicholson when he pokes his head through the door in The Shining.
I'm home.
Here's Johnny. Isn't that what he says right
there?
That's
right. Here's Johnny.
It's shaved off on the sides as you see here. And could you imagine that on your bookshelf?
Yeah, right behind me here.
Oh God, that would look so good. That's awesome. And finally, here's a joke for you. An Indian, an African American, and a Mexican walk into a bar. There's 3 photos.
That's a good one.
Three photos of what's Pocahontas' name?
You're just gonna have to
Elizabeth Warren. You're right.
I don't know who that woman
Rachel
is.
Dolezal. Rachel Dolezal, if I say her name right.
She was black, right.
And then Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, he's Mexican.
Right. It's the punchline is just kidding. It's 3 liberal white women. That's funny. When I saw that, I cracked up. All right, I did have other stuff, but we are running super late. We went at a rapid fire pace.
I hardly had anything for today.
You're lying?
No, just kidding.
Well, we hadn't seen each other for 2 weeks, so
yeah, that's it. That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday season. It does seem like people are warming up to hearing "Merry Christmas" again. I think that's awesome.
I've had a few Merry Christmases already, and
I think that's wonderful.
It's kind of nice. Yeah,
I don't find anything wrong with Happy Holidays either. I really don't. No. I say it a lot. I'm in a very heavily Jewish area, not to mention it's Indian. It's a very diverse area, very African American. Hey, I don't care what you say to me. Happy Kwanzaa, fine.
Yeah,
wish me happy something, and I'm going to smile back.
Same here. Tell them how they can find us.
Oh, thank you, Merle. Go to over50startingover.com. Spell all that out. If you sign up to our emailing list, you'll get all of our links and everything. And this show dropped in your email box. As it happens, you can sign up at YouTube. Subscribe there. Share, for God's sakes, and leave a comment. At YouTube, it's an easy way to do it. I think the best way, Apple Podcasts. Catch us at Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5 Apple or star review, whatever it is. We really appreciate it. And just listen to us while you're shopping and driving around, going home from work.
And have a Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Hey there, over 50, starting over friends. Mark Tennant here with your AI tip of the week. This week, and it's a fun one, ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode. Now, this is only available on the paid version, but once we go through this AI tip of the week, I think you'll really start thinking about maybe this is something I want to look into. How to use it and tips for success, let's get rolling. Advanced Voice ChatGPT has only been out about a month and a half or so, but it allows you to interact with the large language model in natural human speak. You speak to it, and it in kind speaks back to you. Now, there is a feature with a little microphone, and we're going to show you this here in just a little bit on the free versions, where you can just talk into it. It translates what you say, and then it responds back in text. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually talking back and forth to ChatGPT. Real-time conversations, clear speech and understanding. And it's really like I've been talking about these last few episodes. Let's just talk to the AI. Just talk to it, and there's no better way than through the human voice. All kinds of things you can do with it for productivity, learning, creativity, brainstorming. It's a fantastic tool. Real life situations in the kitchen, I use it a lot of times. As a matter of fact, the other day I just asked, hey, can I use olive oil instead of butter in some of these recipes? And it helped me with that. Interview prep, I've actually used it for that. Brainstorming, it's great to generate ideas on the go. It's fantastic. So how to get to it? It's on the mobile app on your phone, also on the desktop app for PC and Mac. You simply just go into the app, go to settings, do the voice and speech feature right there in the settings. There's about 4 or 5 different voices you'll have a chance to listen to, and you pick the voice of your choice, and then you tap the audio wave icon and start speaking. Now across the bottom, you'll see there is the traditional microphone where, as I said before, you talk into it and it responds in text. This is what gives you the advanced voice mode. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and open up ChatGPT. And there we go. Let's go ahead and start talking to it. And you'll see the icon open up and see a little cloud. And there it is. Hi, ChatGPT. How are you? You are on the Over 50 Starting Over podcast. Say hello to the audience.
Hey there, Over 50 Starting Over crew. It's fantastic to be here with you all. I'm excited to chat with you today.
ChatGPT is just a quick demo for the folks, just so they heard your voice. Let's think of some ideas. What are some ways, creative ways, that business professionals over the age of 50 can use you to learn AI, to help them at work, and to help them professionally?
Absolutely, Mark. Here are a few creative ways. 1. AI-powered research assistant. Use ChatGPT to quickly gather information, analyze trends, or summarize articles and reports. This can save time and keep you informed on industry news. Meeting prep and follow-up. Let ChatGPT help you prepare for meetings by generating questions, talking points, or even crafting follow-up emails. It's like having a personal assistant.
Thanks so much, ChatGPT. Loved it. Appreciate your help.
You're welcome, Mark. I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
So remember, ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode is the best way that I have found lately for over 50s to get comfortable with AI, and the Advanced Voice Mode is now your new AI conversational partner. Well, if you want to get a hold of me, email is mark@marktennant.net. There's my website, marktennant.net, and hook with me on LinkedIn. It is linkedin.com, Mark E. Tennant. Until next time, keep refining those prompts, keep learning, and keep using AI.